Hello and welcome to my world and the final video as it relates to going through all of my DVDs. We got the final two cases here, at least the final two cases that we can show on stream and due to specific type of content. You can guess what's in the other two cases. But question is, what will be replacing this in the series? As far as like a Wednesday videos go, I am not particularly sure at the time I'm recording this here on May 16th. But as you saw, Mondays are now dedicated to doing some content related to Star Trek Online on the Xbox consoles. Basically seeing how difficult it is. And what it would probably on Wednesdays will probably be more commentary related videos. I'm thinking about doing stuff related to the games that as I finish them, because I have all that footage, and I definitely do clips and stuff, so I can definitely create B-rolls. But that's a whole other thing, other for me to consider down the line and so forth here. So let's get this started. And we'll go with this one here because there's more DVDs in this case than the other, because the other one has more box sets. So why did I bring this up onto my lap? Because I'm an idiot. Stimpy, you idiot. So what we got here, let's grab a couple. All right. Craig Ferguson starring in Saving Grace. Craig Ferguson, as well as a gets involved with plays a character that gets involved with marijuana farming and so forth. It's a movie I believe he wrote and directed as well as starred in. Of the Craig Ferguson films that I have, I would say this is probably the best in terms of overall quality, but it's not my favorite. That goes to a different film whose name I can't recall at the moment. And it's funny because I just watched it recently at the time of this recording. Tropic Thunder. Hilarious as a big spoof and satire. Probably could not be made today because of Robert Downey Jr.'s character. But as a send up of actors having to actually do the things that their characters in their film that they're making, it's not as good as, say, Three Amigos or Galaxy Quest in that regard, but it's still hilarious in its own right. Tom Cruise's role is greatly overrated. Found his character to be very, very annoying. A League of Their Own, awesome, incredible baseball movie, as a strong reference to the All-American Girls Baseball League that was actually a thing back during World War II. Definitely combines a lot of those elements to tell a fairly decent, actually a very decent drama. Rather surprised that they couldn't use the name Jimmy Fox for Tom Hanks's character to give it, but is what it is there. X-Men United. And this is the full screen edition. I never found the widescreen version of this film. This was actually not just because this is the full screen version, but I found X-Men United to be kind of very disappointing to a large degree. The first film wasn't great, and that one is like it just didn't feel good. Sneakers Collector's Edition, which is pretty good, kind of like a thriller from the late 80s, early 90s. I think 1992, now that I think about it. I've only seen this a few times. There is another movie from around that same period that I often get this confusion with, and I wish I could remember the name of it. Simpsons Treehouse of Horror. This collects Treehouse of Horror 5, 6, 7, and oddly enough, 12. So it's kind of a weird combination where you have 3 consecutive ones, and then the big jump to one from 6 years after the fact. But still, as a Simpsons, DVD release collecting a Treehouse of Horror, could be worse. Could be some of the more the early 2000s Simpsons ones. South Park, Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. Saw this in theaters with my mom and younger brother. It is a very good musical comedy. And yes, when you actually sit and watch it unobjectively, just watching it, taken for what it is a musical. Which actually, if you're familiar with Trey Parker and Matt Stone's work, they do a lot of musicals. It's like that's something that they enjoy. National Lampoon's Animal House, classic movie. What more can you say about it? Definitely set the standard for a lot of the college frat house hijinks related films that would come out after it. Hook, saw this in theaters. And it's probably Robin Williams at his least annoying. Mainly because he has to actually tone it down and then ramp it up at certain parts. Dustin Hoffman clearly makes the film. I rather enjoy Julia Roberts in this as well. Alright, next we have Van Helsing, which the CGI for this didn't quite hold up as well as one would have thought, but matter of fact, if they had more modern CGI, like I wouldn't go back and redo a lot of it, it would be pretty solid there. Why do I feel like I went through this particular case before? Now that I think about it, I probably did, but oh well. Rocky Horror Picture Show, great film. Again, as an adaptation of the stage show to a film, definitely set a strong precedent in that regards. Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, kind of. That has some nice little spoof moments. I rather like the kind of the dig on the like live action Scooby Doo films. But and it was because of this film I became aware of who the hell Morris Day was as well. Team America, World Police. Again, it's a cult classic. It's really too bad though that the big anthem from it, America, fuck yeah, was basically co-opted by a bunch of white supremacists here in 2023. So it's I Spy. I've never seen. I never actually sat down and watched this, but this matter of fact, this copy is still sealed. But considering Eddie Murphy and Owen Wilson, and it's what was it? A remake or reboot of like the film starring Bill Cosby. Evolution, this was disappointing. Considering it was Ivan Reitman and everything involving like aliens. That I kind of feel like this could have been a whole lot better, and it just came across as just being really bland and boring. It's like how could they have gotten that wrong? Whoopie Boys, I actually have this on VHS. Watched the VHS tape a lot as a kid. When we saw it was on DVD, he was like, okay, go ahead and grab it straight away. There is some real weird ADR in regards to Paul Rodriguez's dialogue at various points. Like clearly some extra dubbing and stuff was done either to adjust another line, a lot of lines in delivery. Major League obviously have this on VHS. Solid baseball comedy, Stripes. So I have this on VHS as well, and as well as the extended cut. So this is the standard cut of the film. Willow, awesome movie, a great fantasy epic. Since I don't have Disney Plus, never really had any interest in that. I did not see the new the sequel series, so I don't know how well that went. So I will reserve judgment till I see it available on DVD or being sold as something on other platforms. Because Disney loves money, and they will make that stuff available to be purchased digitally at some point. Field of Dreams could be considered a bit overrated. And I say that mostly because I've actually read the original book that this movie is based on. So of what works and what doesn't, it kind of plays out. I mean, they get a lot of little details right. There was a baseball player called Moonlight Graham, and the whole thing involving Terrence Mann as a stand-in for J.D. Salinger, I believe, definitely works. And it also comes into the whole who's alive and who's dead, and it's like particularly with the Terrence Mann characters, like when did the character of Terrence Mann die along the journey where he gets to go off with all the spooks and ghosts. Mr. 3000, probably Bernie Mac's best solo vehicle, as a solid baseball comedy. And alrighty, Memoirs of a Geisha, I thought was pretty solid. I only sat down and watched it once, though. I remember enjoying it, but I really would have to sit down and give this another watch through from beginning to end. Judgment at Nuremberg, as a courtroom drama, pretty much sets the standard for a lot of courtroom dramas. As far as I'm concerned, it definitely takes into account like the trial of the lot of the Nazis, and one of William Shatner's early film roles as well. Shawshank Redemption, a film that basically got played to death on like TBS and TNT back in the late 90s and early 2000s. Still an awesome movie. The Terminal I actually really liked. Although it does set the standard, it does fall into the trope of Tom Hanks just doing an awkward foreign accent. I kind of wonder though, what if they got an actual actor that was a foreigner, put it in the lead? Would this movie be as highly well regarded as it was, particularly at the time? It was like, because the story is actually pretty good. The story and everything, all the plot beats, is actually really good. But I kind of wonder, if you didn't have Tom Hanks in it, would it be it have been as well regarded from its initial release? Hannibal, this movie fucking sucks. This was this awful. Gladiator, incredible film. So to go from one bad film to an awesome one, Gladiator still holds up in terms of as being just a spectacle, no matter how big a TV or monitor that you're watching it on. Bruce Lee's Fist of Fury, this is a sealed DVD copy, as well as Bruce Lee's The Chinese Connection. I've seen these movies. They're, your standard Bruce Lee action martial arts films from the 70s. This is a sealed copy of Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines, and it was got for $5. So yes, this is a movie I have twice, and this is the full screen edition. I haven't checked to see what the other one was. Is the other one widescreen or not? Because that would justify it. Matter of fact, speaking of which, here's the widescreen edition. So I think that would explain why it was bought twice. Whoops, I grabbed the wrong one there. Live the hard drive, folks. Yeah. Damn it. There we go. So one's full screen, one's widescreen. So having both versions of it there is like, I think realized bought the wrong one and then bought the correct version, or something of that effect. Funny enough, I don't have Terminator 2 on DVD. Sting, a moment of truth. Basically, Steve Borden, the professional wrestler's big whatchamacallit, what was it? A propaganda film as relates to being a born again Christian. As this film is kind of interesting as it relates to it because they use a lot of stuff from TNA and some licensed footage from WWE. A lot of stuff that they did with TNA during is working it as it's Sting working through his own personal demons, but it is kind of hilarious in its own way. Free Enterprise. I remember seeing this on originally on HBO, and it caught my attention on it. And then what was it? It just ended up just catching my attention and just being a rather smart and funny film. I really should give it another watch. 21. What was this? The card counters heist and stuff in Vegas. What was it? It's based on a true story. I think this ended up being a fairly good movie. But Howard the Duck on DVD, of course, as a fan of growing up as a kid, watching the VHS tape over and over again. As an adult, when I saw it was on DVD, you know what? Yeah, we'll go for it right away. Leah Thompson was so gorgeous in this. And of course, Zero the Gay Blade on DVD. Come on, I haven't grew up watching the tape. Again, I have the VHS tape. And it's like, yes, when I saw it was on DVD, you damn well knew I was going to grab it. All right. So, moving into the next case. Where are the zippers on this? Like the final case. All right, so break this down a few different ways. Robin Williams live on Broadway. Pretty much his last decent stand-up special. Basically, AKA, this is also Robin Williams needing to make a his needing a paycheck tour, and which was essentially the beginning of him doing all that weird shit. Him making all those weird movies, those smaller budget movies that make no sense. Kind of like what Nicolas Cage went through for a straight period of time. But it definitely shows that when putting it back in context and looking back at a lot of his earlier stuff, you could always tell, going back in hindsight, just how freaking screwed up the dude was with his manic energy, and knowing how a lot of that was cocaine fueled, particularly in the 70s and early 80s. And it was like, dude was popping on something. Don't speak ill of the dead. Well, shoot me. Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus. I actually have the CD that came out around the same time of this. This was supposed to be like a TV special because it was filmed for television in like the 1968. and it never made air, and then was released like many decades later, like on DVD, and like the recordings of it was put out on CD. So you got what, Jethro Tull, The Who, Rolling Stones, John Lennon in with his the Plastic Ono band, Taj Mahal. So it was not the Plastic Ono band. I think they called it the Dirty. It's the Dirty Mac. It was like a combination of what was it? John Lennon, Keith Richards, or something or other. It kind of makes you wonder why wasn't this? Why didn't this air? But who knows? Living history of the 35th Infantry Division in World War II. So a documentary. In this case, this broke on me. So I need to basically put this in a... I'll need to find another case to basically transfer this note and disc to. But I think this was something in my dad's collection, so... Field of Memories, the story of Phillies baseball veteran stadium. I think I also have this as part of the vet final innings. Like that was like a 2-disc set. Because this came out in 2003. And yeah, because this was released twice. At the beginning of the 2003 season, and then there was the final innings at the vet DVD release where this got repurposed. We got a couple of concerts here. The Head Cat rocking the Cat Club. This is like Lemmy from Motorhead's like Rockabilly project was like Slim Jim fandom. So this has what? Good Rockin' Tonight, Lawdy Miss Claudie, Talking About You, Something Else, Reading and Rockin', Fool's Paradise, Bye Bye Johnny, Sick and Tired, Bad Boy, Matchbox, Back in the USA, Baby What You Want Me to Do, and Blue Suede Shoes. Again, this was Lemmy's Rockabilly project. This is as a step away from doing all the Motorhead stuff. So if you're a Motorhead fan, this is actually kind of interesting just to see Lemmy doing something else. Like away from what he's known for. Brian Setzer's matter of fact, this is my second copy of this Christmas Extravaganza. So I know I have 2 copies of this. We went through the song listing in a previous video. Rolling Stones Live at the Max. This corresponds with the Steel Wheels tour, because the Flashpoint album live album is roughly taken from the same tour. So this has Start Me Up. Actually, Continental Drift is technically the first thing that plays, but that's an instrumental piece. Start Me Up, Sad, 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 Tumbling Dice, Ruby Tuesday, Rockin' a Hard Place, Honky Tonk Woman, You Can't Always Get What You Want, Happy, Painted Black, 2000 Light Years from Home, Sympathy from the Devil, Street Fighting Man, It's Only Rock and Roll, Brown Sugar, and Satisfaction, closing it out. In comparison to the Bridges to Babylon tour, that one is better in terms of like a bigger song variety, but capturing the Rolling Stones at a time when they were basically making a comeback after having a few rough, infighting years of the mid to late 80s. That's actually pretty good to see them get back to form. Andrew Dice Clay's Dice Rules, which was filmed at Madison Square Garden. It does open with a bit like a 20 to 30 minute like mini movie, which is kind of weird. It's like, oh, it's Andrew Dice Clay's basically evolution into why he became the Dice Man. But that's not as good. The stand-up special definitely really holds. When you get to the Madison Square Garden footage, it definitely shows just how much of a rock and roll comic he was. And when you compare what he did to comics who would come along later, because there wasn't really any comics that were doing stadium and full-size arena shows in the late 80s. Andrew Dice Clay was kind of in that variety. I noticed that Eddie Murphy performed at Madison Square Garden, but he performed at the attached theater, not in the garden itself. So there's a huge difference there. Like, it wouldn't be until like what 10 to 15 years after this that you really started seeing comics really getting into filling like arenas. Um, but it's kind of definitely an interesting time capsule there. All right. So the rest of these are TV series and box sets. We have Sledgehammer, seasons 1 and 2, ran for 2 seasons on ABC. As a satire for a lot of police procedural shows and films at the time, because it definitely holds up in that into a very large degree. Definitely a lot of licensed music was used. Matter of fact, I believe this DVD set does not have all that like awkward editing or dubbing of some musical tracks. There is one episode that opens with the song "Maneater" from one episode for Hall & Oates "Maneater." I don't remember the particular one, and I know one of the inserts for this I have a binder. I gotta put it back with it, but at the same time, how big Sledgehammer was back in the 80s, there was like two comic books produced through Marvel. ABC thought the show was big enough to go up against the Cosby Show. It wasn't. And it was a show that definitely got moved around. Matter of fact, there's an episode in season 1. It's the Elvis where Hammer goes undercover to be as an Elvis impersonator. Long story there. And they make a comment as like, when am I on? Well, you're on after the guy from Dallas, but before the guy from Miami. So between Dallas and Miami, what a terrible place for me to be. Which is a reference because Sledgehammer at that time was going up against both Dallas, which was a huge show, and Miami Vice. So, and ABC really did not do the show any favors. It kept moving it around in its first season, but the audience followed it. But the season 2, they put it up against the Cosby Show, and it kind of killed it off right. But it's a show that definitely holds up, in my personal opinion, very, very well. This is the Adventures of Indiana Jones box set. This has Raiders, Temple of Doom, and The Last Crusade, plus bonus materials. This came out at about the same time as Kingdom of the Crystal Skull did on DVD, so it's a nice box set, nicely made. But we got more Indiana Jones here. We have, oh boy, Volume 2, Volume 3, and Volume 1 of the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles, which is all canon as it relates to Indiana Jones as a character. These aired on ABC. These box sets, what they do is because they kind of like were mixed and matched in terms of what was young Indy as a kid, Indy as a teenager, and Indy as a young adult. But they kind of were paired them up at different things depending on when things were filmed. These box sets kind of go through and combine the stories as best they can to create a linear narrative. So Volume 1, you definitely see Indy more as a kid. Volume 2, young adult, teenager, young adult, and Volume 3 definitely leading into his more younger, into his early 20s. A lot of it holds up. These were definitely created was a lot of education in mind, particularly the younger indie stuff. But as the character got older, definitely more into your typical action drama, meeting historical figures, into being around or interacting with major historical events. And last but not least, and I'm missing like the two made for TV films that came out after this series ended. But we have MacGyver seasons 1 through 7, starring Richard Dean Anderson. Of course, MacGyver aired on ABC, often like Monday nights. As a well, it was paired with Coach. Without question, it's definitely MacGyver definitely had like an evolution to it. You had your standard Adventure of the Week format in season 1, but gradually over time characters became reoccurring. So you had like Dana Elkar's Pete, who because Dana Elkar appears in the first episode as a completely different character, but then gets brought back as Pete later on. That you had was it Dalton. It was kind of like a bit of a schemer type character. You had a number of female characters that were reoccurring. There was an entire family of characters introduced. I forget their names, but I believe Cuba Gooding Jr. was one of them. Like, darn, I wish I could remember the collective cast character's name, because one episode of MacGyver was meant as a total like spin-off, the try and like do something with with these cast of characters, because there is a bit of a lore and mythology that builds up, because there is a lot of callbacks and such. And you can imagine, it's like if I went out of my way to get the entire series on DVD, you can imagine my disappointment with that abomination that was the MacGyver reboot, and just turning it into your standard what is it, teamwork, team building style generic show, adventure thriller type series on CBS. So you can imagine my disappointment with it being like, okay, the show was kind of built around one character. Like he had supporting and reoccurring characters, but was basically built around MacGyver in and of himself. Like the character was interesting enough that you can put him in any type of situation. So you didn't need to have like, because the charm of the original MacGyver was you had all these other characters that would come in and out. So like when they showed up, it made them feel special and made the episode stand out. Like you knew what you were going to be in for. When like Dalton showed up, like you knew the episode was going to be a little bit lighter. It was going to be a lot more silly. If it was who the heck was I forget the name of like the character that was like Mac's rival of sorts, and definitely because they definitely did callbacks, like a more lethal version of Mac, and there was like episodes built around just trying to survive a particular situation. Things get hairy. So again, and that modern reboot that aired on CBS did not capture any of that magic, and so again, I was very disappointed in that. Also has nothing to do with the fact that CBS Viacom put a copyright claim on several of the original videos I did on my original YouTube channel before I deleted it. So that also didn't exactly help my feelings towards the modern MacGyver reboot. That being said, that would actually do it for all my DVDs and such. So that means this entire stuff that you see behind me, I'm going to reorganize it, and some stuff are going to be shoved under the basement stairs that you see behind me, and And eventually we'll figure out how am I going to make good use of this in terms of future content creation here on this pokey YouTube channel of mine. So we'll see what we end up doing long term and try and make this channel viable. And trying to, we'll see. So with that said, tighten your friendship bracelet, stay safe. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video after we figure out what the hell that's going to be.